Challenging period of life for most young adults, and it may be uniquely difficult for individuals with disability. The transition is traditionally viewed as a developmental task for which the major challenge in individuation and establishing independence from the family of origin. Along with launching from the family, the period is usually associated with role transitions that include the completion of formal schooling, financial independence, and a shift in attachments to a new family with marriage and parenthood. Although these life events are normative for typically developing young adults, they may be unattainable for individuals with a disability who have significant limitations in cognitive abilities, social skills, and independent life skills, and who rely on substantial supports in their daily lives. More commonly, however, individuals with mild disability are generally expected to attain some degree of independent functioning despite the limitations associated with their disability and with limited supports. Injustice, segregation, and inequity are the greatest hurdles to the lives of adolescents with disabilities. It is worse in the case of girls with disabilities, where they are doubly disadvantaged than boys with disabilities. Most of the families are willing to spend on education, health issues, and employment of the boys with disabilities rather than the girls with disabilities. For example, if there is any health issues for girls with disabilities, the parents may wait a few days thinking that it will cure by itself. It won't be so in the case of boys with disabilities. This is due to the social stigma that the boys will become an earning member of the family in spite of their disability. In general, adolescents with disabilities are excluded from most of the programs and services since they belong to a minority population. There are many programs for non-impaired adolescents and young adults, but the people with disability are rarely included in those programs, whereas programs especially for persons with a disability generally focus on either children with a disability or for adults with a disability. The needs and issues of adolescents with a disability vary from children with a disability and adults with a disability. Programs and advocacy for adults are largely focused on issues of employment and to some degree housing and community integration. Most of the organizations and rehabilitation programs give importance to job training for those who have met with an accident or injury. Those people would have the job experience earlier, which would be easier for the trainers to fit them back into their jobs. But it is not so in the case of adolescents with disabilities. They need an intensive and several stages of training. The result is that in many countries, adolescents and youth with disabilities are alienated from those few disability support organizations that do exist. Adolescents with more visible and severe disabilities are considered to be very weak and improbable to lead a life of adulthood. Since the families feel that those with severe disabilities cannot show a noticeable progress, education, healthcare, and inclusion are neglected to the maximum. They continue to live as children under the shelter of parents. Their personal needs are addressed mostly by their mother, which means that these young people have little or no say over even the most basic aspects of their lives. It is really a pathetic situation that families expect the death of them at the earliest, but not their possible survival. Lack of education is the key concern for most of the disabled young people in the developing world. Most of the schools don't have barrier-free environment where they can access with least restriction. In general, there is a thought that disabled children are not capable of learning in spite of any type of disability, that is visual impairment, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, autism, multiple disability, and the nature of disability, whether it is mild, moderate or severe. The general education teachers are not willing to include disabled children in their classroom since they feel that there will be disturbances and distractors. In the advent of inclusive education, the disabled children are enrolled more in the neighboring schools. Itinerant teachers visit the schools and give guidance to the regular teachers in handling the disabled children. Even though the aim of inclusive education is achieved to some extent, the attitude of the regular teachers in accepting the disabled children into the mainstream is a big question. Most of the time, they are isolated in the classroom and they receive education only when the itinerant teacher visits the school. This leads to a mass of young children with disabilities when they reach adolescence lag much behind their normal peers in education and skills needed for employment. The social isolation, poverty and discrimination faced by young people end up on the street, unemployed and often involved in crimes, sex work and drugs and become the easy prey for others. The parents also, due to overprotectiveness, hinder the education of their disabled children. They feel that their children suffer a lot due to disability and hence they don't want to give more stress on their education. On the other hand, they are ready to spend more for the education of the non-disabled sibling with the hope that he or she will look after their disabled sibling. Gender bias further worsens the condition of disabled females. When speaking of higher education, only a very few enters, and that too, they don't have many choices to choose like non-disabled peers in selecting the area or field of study. Sexual development is a multidimensional process intertwined with the basic human needs of being liked and accepted, displaying and receiving affection, feeling valued and attractive, and sharing thoughts and feelings. To attain an adult body capable of reproducing, to have and maintain intimate relationships, to manage a range of complex emotions, and to think and problem solve independently. These are the major developmental tasks of adolescence. Sexual function is tied to anatomical and physiological processes, to personality and emotions, and to ethical, spiritual, moral, and cultural beliefs. Overall, sexuality is a highly complex personal and social phenomenon. Individuals with disabilities may be hindered in their sexual development by both functional limitations and intentional or unintentional societal barriers. There is a misconception that the persons with disabilities are childlike and don't have any sexual urges. In contrast, there is another view that they are aggressive and have uncontrollable sexual urges. Parents tend to protect their disabled children. The awareness on disability has created a lot of changes in the acceptance of disabled individuals. But even then, people are ready to accept them as fellow employers or friends and not as marriage partners. A major issue in the lives of all non-disabled young people is the growing physical maturation and changing social role that prepares them for marriage and children. Yet, young people with a disability often have little or no say over where they will live, whom they will live with, and what role they will play within their families or communities. Disabled young people are often denied the right to build families of their own. Social and family constraints make it unlikely that many young people with disabilities will marry. Indeed, in some countries, individuals with certain types of disabilities are unable to legally obtain a marriage license. This is particularly true for disabled young women. Without the prospect of marriage in many societies, these young people cannot hope to be accepted as full adult members of their communities. This does not mean that young men and women with disability are not involved in relationships or do not engage in sexual activities, only that there is often no social acknowledgement provided to them. This places adolescent girls and young women with disabilities in particular at increased risk for pregnancy as well as sexually transmitted diseases. Since not many non-disabled persons come forward to marry a disabled person, there are many cases where a disabled marry a disabled of his or her own kind. They need a lot of support from their parents in bringing up their children. Earning and living their livelihood are the major issues. In some families, disabled people get married to non-disabled in their close family circle. The relationship between the husband and wife won't be smooth if they don't mutually understand each other. Education and employment give self-confidence for the disabled to lead a family life like others. Nicholas James Vujicic is an Australian preacher and motivational speaker born with tetra amelia syndrome, a rare disorder characterized by the absence of all four limbs. He is a great role model who, in spite of his disability, leads a successful married life. Now we can see changes in the mindset of people towards disability. Formal education ends by mid-adolescence for most of the males and females. Employment for disabled youth is at greater risk than the non-disabled youth. Barriers to education, lack of reasonable accommodation, lack of accessibility to infrastructures and to information, limitations related to legal capacity, as well as attitudinal barriers in society are some of the areas that have a significant impact on the employment of the disabled youth. In addition, many persons with disabilities are considered inactive and not showing interest towards employment and also considered as incapable of doing any work. Rate of unemployment vary from country to country, but on average tend to be about 40 to 60% higher than the non-disabled population. This is true even in developed countries with sophisticated school to work program and reserved employment scheme. In developing countries, it is an overwhelming problem where it is up to 80% in some countries. In general, young people with disabilities are unemployed or underemployed or employed at lower wages than their non-disabled peers. Many persons with disabilities work outside home doing mental tasks or any physical work or working as street beggars. Millions more work long hours within the family home or on the family farm. They cook, babysit, care of ailing and aged relatives or tend gardens, fields and folks. All their work are unnoticed, unrecognized and are not awarded. Creating an environment in which persons with disabilities feel valued and respected is critical to successfully recruiting and retaining them. An inclusive workplace is one where all employees have equal access to opportunities and resources. It's an environment without physical, social and cultural barriers. The workplace is a key area in which people with disabilities can and should be included. Based on the type of disability and educational qualification with computer skills, persons with disabilities can be broadly categorized under manual, those who have less or no education or computer skill, and skilled, those who have high educational qualification with sufficient computer skill, such as manual visually impaired, manual hearing impaired, manual physically handicapped, manual others, and as well as skilled visually impaired, skilled hearing impaired, skilled physically handicapped, and skilled others. The supply is high and demand is low in the case of manually visually impaired. Due to safety aspects, manufacturing sectors are not ready to employ visually impaired people. In the case of manual hearing impaired, the supply is low and the demand is high. They are considered to be physically fit to do any manual work, but the communication barriers hinders them to sustain in jobs. In the case of manual physically handicapped, the supply is high and the demand is high only for those who have mild disabilities, and it is low for those who have severe disabilities. This is due to barriers to accessibility and transportation. In the case of manual others, the supply is high and the demand is low. This is due to the reason that the individuals require supporting environment. While considering the skilled, visually impaired, hearing impaired, and physically challenged, the supply is high and the demand is increasing due to the acceptability by the private sector and also the reservations for persons with a disability in government sector. Persons with physically handicapped can be mainstreamed and there is not much inclusion challenges as long as the physical barriers are acceptable. People with severe disability need accommodation. Skilled others need supporting environment for a workplace and hence the demand is low. Persons with disabilities, the industry and the nature of work in each industry in a particular geographical area have to be studied. In an industry, there are a wide range of jobs for a low profile to high skilled. For example, in a garment, there are sections such as cutting, distributing the cut pieces, stitching, buttoning or embroidery work, ironing, folding and packing, quality checking, stock maintenance, accounting, designing, administration. Persons with disabilities, educational qualification, abilities and skills have to be categorized and analyzed. Who will fit into which type of work has to be identified. Training should be given to them to fit into the work. A person in charge can be allocated to assist and guide them till they are able to work independently. The working environment should be accessible and barrier free. Minor changes and simple accommodations will make a lot of difference and make the persons with the disabilities to work with involvement and retain in the job. In general, it is persons with disabilities who are recruited last but fired and sent out first. This is due to the negative attitude of the employers and other employees towards the persons with disabilities. They should be treated equally like other employers. Their self-esteem should be valued at all times. Sensitization should be given to the employer and the employees from top to bottom regarding their abilities and how to treat them in the workplace. It is not only the employers and the employees, but also the persons with the disabilities to be oriented and counseled regarding socializing among the employee in the work environment. They should be trained in maintaining a smooth relationship with the employer. The organizations working for the vocational rehabilitation of persons with disabilities can coordinate the above process. They should be the mediator between the employer, employee and the persons with disabilities. There are persons with severe disabilities who break the attitude of the people that their severe disability will not allow them to experience a normal life like others and especially in employment. Out of their sheer will, interest, self-motivation, hard work, support from the parents, institution and teachers and the advancement in technology make them to achieve their desired goals. There are companies who come forward with special projects for including persons with severe disabilities. For example, Avinash Sonad, intern, software developer, EMC, is a person with cerebral palsy who always lies in bed. He works from home. He uses voice commands to work in computer. All icons in the desktop are numbered. He accesses them by saying the number. The screen is divided into 9 grids, and Avinash chooses a grid by voice command, and the mouse moves there and he works the test cases and updates his manager. Likewise, Naveen R., Associate Business Operations Analyst (EMC), a person who is deaf low vision, works on computer using on screen magnifier and high contrast black display. Refreshable braille display for deafblind, voice command in computer, enlarged screen, dual monitor, one for the display and the other for keyboard application, touch screen, on-screen keyboard for word prediction, joystick or foot pedal as mouse for severe physically challenged people are a few examples of assistive technologies which give a wide scope of working opportunities for persons with severe disabilities. Programs that provide a solid grounding for disabled young people, particularly as they enter the workplace, fall roughly into one of two categories: those that are separate from and exclusively for individuals with a disability, and those that are inclusive, allowing disabled young people to participate alongside their non-disabled peers. Separate income producing programs have existed for years, often in the form of sheltered workshops in both the developed and developing world. In a sheltered workshop, the initiative for the program and decision making for the program are generally not under the control of individuals with a disability who function as workshop employees. Increasingly, however, disability led cooperatives using microcredit models have been successfully introduced. For example, small loans of capital have allowed women with a disability to invest in small scale income generating endeavors, which have resulted in real social and financial independence. Both in developed and developing countries, government and non-governmental funding agencies provide fund for the economic empowerment of persons with disabilities. One such is the National Handicap Finance and Development Corporation, set up by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India in 1997. In recent years, some disability organizations have begun to address the needs of young people with disabilities as a distinct subgroup. For example, the World Blind Union has established a committee on youth to improve outreach. In several cases, organizations have been formed to focus wholly on adolescents or youth adults with disabilities. For example, in Russia, the new National Federation of Hard of Hearing Young People is bringing together adolescents for mutual support and social interactions. In the United States, there is now a National Center on Youth with Disabilities in Minnesota. These programs have well thought out outcomes, sufficient organization structure, and funding for ongoing support. In India, a non-profitable organization, Enable India, creates self-employment to physically handicapped, wherein under a scheme it gives training as well as place them in job. It received a grant from Government of Karnataka for augmenting self-employment for disabled in rural area. Enable India, in collaboration with the training institutes Root City and R City, which work for marginalized people, identified the disabled people in rural area, analyzed their abilities and gave skill oriented training needed for self-employment. Transition from adolescence to adulthood for persons with disabilities is the hardest period they face. They try to seek personal identity in the society by having economic independence and fulfilling a successful family life. But the attitudinal barriers hinder them to satisfy their needs. The presence of a disability does not override the rights of children and adolescents to develop and express their sexuality or to have access to accurate information that permits safe and healthy choices to be made. Healthcare providers need to be better first by increasing their awareness on this unmet need and thereafter by implementing strategies that promote the physical, emotional, social, and psychosocial independence of teenagers and young adults with disabilities. Employment is an important aspect in the life of persons with disabilities. This is not only gives economic independence but also helps to lead a successful married life. This will change the mindset of the people towards them. There are companies, organizations, and funding agencies which promote economic empowerment of persons with disabilities. Technological advancement paves way for persons with severe disabilities to get included in the work environment. The rights of the disabled should not be denied at any cost. Positive attitude alone can make the society inclusive.